we are going to start with nitric acid. Now, nitric acid, initially called aqua fortis, that is strong water, and later on Glauber was the scientist who prepared nitric acid from nitrate, that is potassium nitrate, with concentrated sulfuric acid. So in this process he was able to manufacture nitric acid. Now this nitric acid has various uses. You see, the fertilizers, they are made up of nitric acid, they are made from nitric acid. Then of course perfumes are also made from nitric acid, drugs are made from nitric acid. Aqua regia, which we studied in HCl, that also is prepared from nitric acid. One part of HCl and one part of nitric acid and 3 part of HCl. So aqua regia is a very strong acid. It is used to check gold, purity of gold and all. So then this nitric acid is very useful. Okay, so how is this nitric acid prepared in the lab? In the nature it is available in the free state. Like for example, whenever you see nitrogen is there in large percentage in the air, say about 90%, 80 to 90% of the air is nitrogen, 70 to 80%. So whenever there is a lightning discharge, that means thunder and lightning, this nitrogen combines with oxygen to form nitric oxide, then nitrogen dioxide, and thereafter this nitrogen dioxide combines with rainwater to form nitric acid, and this nitric acid combines with the soil and forms nitrates. So in the nature you get nitric acid in the form of atmospheric nitrogen fixation. Okay, now lightning discharge through nitric discharge, and in combined state it is in the form of Chile saltpetre and Bengal saltpetre. So Chile saltpetre is sodium nitrate and Bengal saltpetre is potassium nitrate. Now this Chile saltpetre and Bengal saltpetre is used in the manufacture of nitric acid in the lab. So lab preparation of nitric acid. Now see this retort. This is special retort has been made for the manufacture of nitric acid. We take sulfuric acid and nitric acid in the ratio 1:1. Okay. The reason behind it is this sulfuric acid has 2 hydrogen concentration and potassium bisulfate is 1 hydrogen concentration. So then if the ratio is 1:1, it results in the formation of better yield of potassium bisulfate. Okay. Now the temperature has to be less than 200 degrees Celsius and it has to be heated slowly from down. And why we are taking concentrated sulfuric acid? Because it is non-volatile and it is helpful in displacing other volatile gases like nitric acid is a volatile gas. So that's why sulfuric acid is used. Why hydrochloric acid is not used? Because hydrochloric acid itself is volatile. So it is not easy to displace another volatile gas from HCl. Okay. So now the gas which is released, that is nitric acid which is released, is been collected in another beaker over here. Now from top cold water is been released. So what happens, these fumes which are formed of nitric acid, they condense to form nitric acid liquid. Okay, there is an outlet for removing the water. The water is been thrown from top and it's collected down and it moves outward. Now this nitric acid, how do you identify nitric acid? This nitric acid can be identified when you take this nitric acid and you heat it along with copper, okay, at a high temperature. Then we get reddish brown fumes. So how do you identify nitric acid? By heating it along with copper. Now this nitric acid can also be passed through freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution. Okay, so when you pass this nitric acid through ferrous sulfate solution, the solution turns brown in color. That also shows that nitric acid, it is nitric acid. That's the identification, lab identification. This nitric acid is heavier than air, and it is, since it is acid, the blue litmus solution turns red, and moist litmus turns blue to red. Methyl orange from orange to pink. Phenolphthalein remains its color. Okay, so moist blue litmus turns red, methyl orange turns from orange to pink, and phenolphthalein remains colorless. Okay, now this nitric acid, since it is acid, it has all the acidic properties. That means it is sour to taste, and it is heavier than air, and uh, it is very reactive acid. Okay, so all glass apparatus is used. This is all glass apparatus used because nitric acid is highly corrosive. Okay, it reacts with almost anything except for the glass. Okay, and the temperature has to be less than 200 degrees Celsius. Why the temperature has to be less than 200 degrees Celsius? Because if it is more than 200 degrees Celsius, first thing that it forms a hard crust. That is, instead of potassium sulfate or potassium bisulfate or sodium bisulfate, potassium sulfate and sodium sulfate is formed, and that sticks to the glass, forms a hard crust which is difficult to remove. Okay, and of course fuel is also wasted. Then further decomposition of the acid takes place if it is a high temperature. Then glass apparatus may get damaged. Okay, so damage to the glass apparatus, further decomposition of the acid, formation of the hard residual crust of sodium sulfate and or potassium sulfate. As potassium sulfate is a poor conductor of heat, sticks to the glass and is difficult to remove. Nitric acid which is prepared in the lab, freshly prepared nitric acid, is colorless. Okay, but as the temperature increases, the room temperature, the nitric acid becomes yellowish in color, and which is substantial at a higher temperature. That means the color becomes dark yellow or brownish in color at high temperature. So the one that you get in lab is not pure nitric acid. It decomposes to form nitrogen dioxide. So how do you get pure nitric acid? You get pure nitric acid by blowing air or dilution with water. Now see, when you blow air, carbon dioxide which is released from our mouth, it helps to displace the nitrogen dioxide and recombines to form nitric acid. And of course by adding water we get pure nitric acid. Alright, so that is the way how you get pure nitric acid when you require it, and the one that you get in the lab is yellowish in color. Now this nitric acid, as I have told before, is a very strong acid. So whenever it is taken in any vessel or any substance, it reacts with it. And what happens if it accidentally falls on our hand? Nitric acid is a strong oxidizing agent, so it oxidizes the protein of the skin and forms its xanthoprotic acid. It chars the skin yellow. Okay, so what happens when nitric acid falls on our hand? Our skin gets charred to yellow. It causes painful blisters, and plus it forms a xanthoprotic acid. It's a kind of a protein. When it reacts with the protein, nitric acid reacts. Now the nitric acid which we have over here has a boiling point of about 121 degrees Celsius. So the nitric acid has some quantity of water in it. So if you want pure nitric acid, what do you expect? What will be your method of separating water from nitric acid? You know that boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius, and since the boiling point of nitric acid is 121 degrees Celsius, so when you heat it above 100 degrees Celsius, you expect all the water to get evaporated. But nothing like that happens. Both water and nitric acid, they evaporate at 121 degrees Celsius because they have formed the constant boiling mixture. We have studied about constant boiling mixture in HCl also. Okay. So then how do you concentrate this nitric acid? By the method of distillation, by adding small quantity of sulfuric acid. Then we get 98% pure nitric acid, which is fuming nitric acid. You can see the vapors coming out. We are going to study the large scale manufacture of nitric acid. The large scale manufacture of nitric acid was done by Oswald. Okay, so it's called as the Oswald's process. So in that we pass ammonia and air, that is oxygen. Okay, now oxygen is taken in large ratio. The ratio of ammonia to air or oxygen is 1:10. So ammonia is taken along with the air in the ratio 1:10 in this catalytic chamber. Now we have already studied about this in ammonia lesson, catalytic oxidation of ammonia. So what happens when ammonia and air are taken and heated to 700 to 800 degrees Celsius, and the catalyst used is platinum gauze is used. Okay, so here you have the catalytic chamber in which platinum gauze is used, and it helps in the formation of nitrogen dioxide. First nitric oxide and then nitrogen dioxide. So when the reaction goes, nitric oxide forms. This nitric oxide goes over here in the oxidation chamber. Now in the oxidation chamber, the nitric oxide gets converted to nitrogen dioxide, and then after that it is sent into another chamber. This is called as absorption tower. Now the temperature is brought down. Okay, before the temperature was 700 to 800 degrees Celsius. Then from nitric oxide to oxygen in this oxidation chamber, the temperature is brought down to 50 degrees Celsius. Why is the temperature brought down to 50 degrees Celsius? For better conversion of nitrogen dioxide to nitric acid. Otherwise, nitrogen dioxide may decompose. Okay, so it helps in the conversion of nitrogen dioxide to nitric acid. Okay, it helps easy process for the conversion of nitric oxide to nitrogen dioxide and then to nitric acid. So then this nitrogen dioxide gases are been released from down, they move upward. There is a water which is trickling from top in the absorption tower. So this water reacts with nitrogen dioxide to form nitric acid. Okay, so higher ratio of air is used because oxygen is used in all the three processes. So the nitric acid which is collected down can be separated out. Okay, so this is how nitric acid we get. But in this nitric acid there is water. But then how do you separate the water from nitric acid? Because it forms a constant boiling mixture, I have told you before. So you have to separate the nitric acid from water by the method of distillation and adding little concentrated sulfuric acid into it. Okay, now the nitric acid which you get is colorless, it has suffocating odor, it is sour to taste, it is non-poisonous, highly corrosive, heavier than water, highly soluble in water, and boiling point 121 degrees Celsius. Now over here, this is a steel chamber, and in that steel chamber there is quartz. Now what is this quartz? Quartz is used since it is acid resistance. It is resistant to acid. Nitric acid does not attack this quartz. It slows down the movement of gaseous nitrogen dioxide entering from below and initiates better solvation of nitrogen dioxide in water. So quartz is used because it initiates better solvation of nitrogen dioxide in water. Okay. So now this nitric acid which is produced over here or prepared over here is a very strong acid. Okay, it is called a strong oxidizing agent. It oxidizes almost anything. Like for example, when it reacts with any compound, it reacts with it and forms it oxides or dioxides. Like for example, if dilute nitric acid reacts with any compound, it forms its dioxide, and concentrated nitric acid reacts with any compound, it forms its oxide. Like for example, if it reacts with nitrogen, it forms nitrogen dioxide when concentrated nitric acid. Nitric oxide is formed when concentrated nitric acid is used, and when dilute nitric acid is used, nitrogen dioxide is formed. So we will be studying about the equations later on. So nitric acid is a very strong oxidizing agent. Alright. So I want you to go through all these equations, learn it and write it down. Okay. Now this platinum is only initially heated because it is an exothermic reaction. So the further heat is maintained on its own. Forms passivity with iron as well as aluminium. Now, when you clean the metal surface with nitric acid, it forms an oxide coating over aluminium or with iron. Now, this prevents the iron from getting rusted. Okay, so long as there is a coating, the iron will not get rusted. This is called passivity of iron. Alright, so this is possible with nitric acid. Nitric acid creates passivity in iron. Passivity means inertness, it does not react. There are only 4 important equations for nitric acid. One is with hot concentrated nitric acid and one is with dilute nitric acid. So apart from the preparation, that is laboratory preparation as well as large scale manufacture of nitric acid by Ostwald's process, you have these 4 equations which are important for you to learn. So I want you to write them and write them and learn them, and of course ask someone to take up at home so that you'll remember it for a longer time. So the first one is carbon with hot concentrated nitric acid. So when carbon reacts with hot concentrated nitric acid, carbon dioxide gas is released along with nitrogen dioxide and water. So hot concentrated nitric acid gives you nitrogen dioxide gas. So sulfur with hot concentrated nitric acid gives you sulfuric acid plus water plus nitrogen dioxide. Then copper with cold dilute nitric acid gives you copper nitrate plus water plus nitric oxide. And when you take copper with hot dilute nitric acid, gives you copper nitrate plus water plus nitrogen dioxide. So basically when you have hot concentrated nitric acid or hot dilute nitric acid, in both the cases nitrogen dioxide gas is evolved. Okay, now what is the color of nitrogen dioxide gas? Reddish brown fumes. Alright. So that's all we have for this lesson, nitric acid. If you have liked this video, please do not wait to like, share and subscribe this video. So till we meet next, see you. Bye bye.